Okay, let's just dive right into this. We're looking at how a show about a petty, frankly obnoxious criminal living in a rundown trailer park somehow evolved into one of the most philosophically idealistic comedies on modern television. I'm talking, of course, about the absolute gem of a 2000 sitcom, My Name Is Earl.
If you ever watched the show, you definitely remember this opening monologue. It hooked us immediately, right? Because it set up this brilliant contrast. You've got Earl Hickey, a lowbrow guy who proudly lived as a drunken vandal and a thief, suddenly embarking on this highly conceptual, almost spiritual quest to make amends. It just completely inverted what we expect from a sitcom protagonist.
So the big question driving our explainer today is, how exactly did they pull this off? How did a character who is so fundamentally flawed anchor a universe where good inherently triumphs? Well, to answer that, we're going to look right under the hood of the sitcom's mechanics. We'll see how the writers cleverly manipulated classic television tropes, ones you'll actually start spotting in your other favorite shows, to build a world where the moral arc of the universe doesn't just bend toward justice, it practically sprints there.
Part 1. Karma and the List, the Rules of the Universe.
Think back to the pilot episode. It establishes the unbending rules of Earl's world through this crazy rapid-fire sequence of events. Minute 1, he wins $100,000 on a scratch-off ticket. Minute 2, bam, he gets hit by a car and loses the ticket. By day 3, he's in the hospital, his wife leaves him, and while he's high on painkillers, he sees Carson Daly on TV talking about karma. This inspires him to write a list of every bad thing he's ever done. And the literal second he crosses off the very first item, which was just picking up some litter, the wind magically blows his winning lottery ticket right back to his feet.
What's really fascinating here is how the writers took karma, which is usually this vague, sort of esoteric spiritual idea, and transformed it into a literal, laser-guided plot device. In Earl's universe, the universe provides instant gratification for good deeds and equally immediate, undeniable punishment for bad ones. It is swift and it's inescapable. If Earl ignores his list, bad things instantly happen to him or the people he cares about. Through this cosmic intervention, Earl transforms into a classic character archetype that TV writers call the atoner. And because those lottery winnings free him from the daily grind of a 9-to-5, he has the ultimate freedom to dedicate his life entirely to fixing his past mistakes. He becomes this active agent of good, completely stepping out of his old selfish patterns. And this creates a fantastic, ongoing contrast between Earl's newfound idealism and the relentless, honestly often violent cynicism of his ex-wife, Joy. While Earl is out there actively trying to take responsibility, Joy views the world as just something to be exploited, totally relying on manipulation to get her way. It's this core clash of worldviews that drives so much of the show's comedic conflict.
Part 2. The Apology Tour, the Execution of Amends.
So, the writers adopted a classic narrative framework known as the Apology Tour. For a sitcom, this acts perfectly as a Monster of the Week format. Every episode, Earl tackles a new item on his list. But because of the show's intricate plotting, whatever the item is, it's always vastly more complicated than he expects. A simple task like returning stolen money, it always spirals completely out of control. Let's look at how this builds with a perfect example, the Wally Panzer incident. Step 1. Earl remembers bullying a sensitive kid named Wally and crushing his pet butterfly. Step 2, he tracks adult Wally down, only to get trapped in a giant net by a now hyper-masculine, muscle-bound Wally who hides his soft side because of childhood trauma. Step 3, Earl literally has to help Wally embrace his sensitivity to compete in a male beauty pageant. And finally, Step 4, Wally releases an entire kaleidoscope of butterflies on stage. It just perfectly shows the absurd multi-step lengths Earl has to go to just to cross off one single childhood mistake.
But, you know, the show wasn't just mindless optimism. It brilliantly subverted our expectations with what you might call hard truth Aesops. Take the really tragic case of Sweet Johnny. He was a stuntman Earl endangered in the past. But when Earl finally tracks him down, Johnny is stuck in a 24-hour memory loop from a totally unrelated head injury. Earl quickly realizes that reminding Johnny of his lost decade just drives him to attempt suicide. The hard truth here? Some mistakes just cannot be fixed. Earl actually has to leave Johnny on the list forever as a permanent reminder of his guilt.
Part 3. Dysfunction in Camden County, the setting.
To really appreciate Earl's journey, you have to look at Camden County itself. It is the textbook definition of a dysfunction junction. It's this bizarre town seemingly stuck in a retro 1980s universe, where virtually everyone is either a petty crook, incredibly naive, or just a complete oddball.
I mean, Camden County boasts some incredibly absurd traits. They have a completely incompetent, bumbling police force. We even learned through flashbacks that during the Civil War, they formed a breakaway republic called the Central that lasted exactly 15 minutes. The town is filled with eccentric locals, like a crazy witch lady and a one-eyed mailman, and everyone consumes cheap, generic, bland name products. The writers intentionally use this gritty, broken, chaotic setting to serve as the perfect stark contrast to Earl's wholesome mission.
And navigating this chaos right alongside Earl is his brother, Randy. Randy is the ultimate cloud cuckoo lander. He has this childlike innocence and is fiercely loyal, but he's entirely dependent on his brother. As Earl becomes more resourceful and morally grounded, Randy serves as his hilarious foil, really highlighting Earl's rapid evolution into basically the only sane man in a totally crazy town.
Part 4. Tropes, Gags, and Legacy, the Mechanics of Sitcom.
As the series went on, the creators actively leaned into meta-comedy, using a trope called flanderization. This is a super common TV writing tool, and once you know about it, you'll see it everywhere. It's when a single trait of a character or setting is exaggerated over time until it completely consumes them. Camden County didn't start out completely insane, but the writers intentionally flanderized the setting, making the town's history and its residents increasingly absurd and cartoonish just to escalate the comedic stakes for Earl.
And this illustrates the brilliant toolkit the writers used to keep us hooked. They relied heavily on flashbacks in every single episode to set up the current list item. They built a cozy familiarity with running gags like Earl and Randy's wakey-wakey hands-off snaky morning routine, or the fact that Earl is blinking in literally every photograph ever taken of him. They utilized constant callbacks, having people Earl helped in Season 1 randomly return to assist him years later. They even threw in a bilingual donus. Catalina's Spanish dialogue wasn't just translated filler. She was often secretly insulting Joy or directly thanking the Latino audience and completely breaking the fourth wall.
But underneath all of those mechanics, the show had so much heart. By grounding the ridiculous, over-the-top comedy in these incredibly earnest closing monologues, like Earl beautifully reflecting on Wally the butterfly, the writers ensured the viewer always walked away feeling that doing good truly matters. They always protected that emotional core.
Tragically, despite its brilliant structure, the series became a victim of network television reality. After 4 seasons, it was abruptly canceled due to network disputes. It was quite literally left hanging. The show ended on a massive, to-be-continued cliffhanger about the true paternity of Joy's children, and it denied Earl the chance to ever formally finish his list on screen.
It's definitely a frustrating end for fans, but it leaves us with a really profound thought. When we look back at the trail of redeemed lives across Camden County, the friendships repaired, and the Earl's own transformation from a selfish criminal into a genuinely good man, we have to ask ourselves, even without a neat and tidy finale, didn't the journey itself prove the point? Good, ultimately, feels good.